after party after the red carpet with VW and Serena. They said, Rick, we were literally brainwashed by you and Daddy to become number one. Okay? Everything was about the future. Everything was about seeing it, expecting it. You're better athletes. They were 12 years old. I'm talking about Steffi Graf, Navratilova, and they're like little kids. Steffi would have got that. This had, the whole era, and that's why a coach or a mentor or a role model or a father figure, words are so powerful.
Digital audio health by Symatrax.
I'd like to welcome to the show today, Nivedita Jerath and Rick Macci. And Niva, can you let the audience know a little bit about your background so they can get to know you better?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rhonda, for having us on the show. My name is Nivedita Jerath. I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, and a big part of my childhood was playing tennis. So part of that was involved controlling my mind and building up mental strength so I could win matches. And then after I played my tennis, I went to college, went to Harvard undergrad, and then continued my education at Mayo Medical School, and then went back to Harvard for training in neurology residency. And currently I run a very big neuromuscular clinic in Orlando, Florida. So I direct the clinic. I see a lot of patients. And some of my day-to-day job functions include not only just diagnosing and treating patients, but also helping patients cope with their day-to-day neuromuscular issues and their medical issues and their mental strength. So I'm here today to talk about the new book I've co-authored with my tennis coach, Rick Macci. It's called Billion Dollar Mind. I'm so grateful and excited to be here.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Rick, would you like to let the audience know a little bit about you before we begin this journey together?
Absolutely. I grew up in a small town, Greenville, Ohio, 10,000 people. I picked up a tennis racket at age 12. I taught myself how to play tennis. By 18 years old, I was the number one player in the Ohio Valley. At 22, I said, I like helping others more than myself. I knew I wasn't going to make it on the pro tour, and I got into coaching. And that was at age 22. And here all these years later, I still teach 50 hours a week, probably more than anybody in the United States. I've been fortunate to be around some of the best young athletes: Venus, Serena, Capriati, Roddick, Sharapova, Moschina, Pierce, Christian Ruud, Casper's dad, and over 300 national champions, and fortunate to get coach of the year numerous amount of times. But I'm actually more of a life coach than a tennis coach, especially dealing with the mental part. So when Dr. Niv, approached me about the book, and it was just a no-brainer, and it's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. And I still have as much passion as I did at age 22, as I'm on the court 7 days a week.
Wonderful. And you're both so unassuming to be so accomplished and affected the lives of so many athletes. And one of the things that, that I'm curious about, and I think the audience may be as well, is that, you're teaching a person how to play tennis. But when it comes to the competitive part of it, it really has to do with the mindset and training the mind and have that mental toughness every time they step on the court. And could you speak to that?
Absolutely. That's really in my wheelhouse. The number one thing, you got to remember to forget. So if everybody listening remembers not to forget what I just said, you got to remember to forget. What I mean is you're going to make mistakes. It's all about solving problems. You got 20 seconds to flip it in your mind that it happened 20 years ago. If you look at greatness, let's take someone like Djokovic. It's like he never even made a mistake. He's on to the next. It's mind control. And you got to almost become like a machine, and get in that routine. So having the ability to forget is like gold. And that is tennis because it's about problem solving, taking a negative because you made a mistake or you're losing and turning a positive because it's not over till it's actually over. And this is what I train so many people on. Now, that being said, if you love the competition, anybody, anytime, anywhere, and you're all about the competition, what's going to happen, Rhonda, you're going to handle pressure better. So you won't get as nervous and you will become mentally stronger. And you even see this on the Pro Tour. People have success, everything around them changes, okay, and you don't hear from them again. But everything around them changes, but you're still a ball, a racket, and you're still on a court. So they let things control them. But mental toughness is the most important thing. That's why a lot of people, they lose to people and you have a better forehand and backhand and serve because they just run and fight and sweat and compete and they're just so into the moment. But you can train for that. And that's been one of the things that I do with many players. But when I saw that in 1991, when I went to Compton, California and saw those two little girls, they were bulletproof. It wasn't that they were big, strong, and going to be fast and all this stuff. It's what I saw under the hood. And I knew they'd handle pressure. And all I had to do was put Humpty Dumpty together.
Yes. And, you know, this thing with making a mistake is that, you know, sometimes people are so afraid of making a mistake. They're afraid of even trying because they're afraid to make that mistake. But speak to us about that. Is it in the mistake that we learn how to be better? And I heard that when you're teaching someone to do a specific thing, like a backhanded swing with what you do, if you do it wrong 10 times, you have to do it 100 times right to get rid of that so that the brain doesn't override. Do you know about anything about that? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, you know, listen, I'm heavy into biomechanics. We're pretty much a worldwide leader into that, reprogramming reflexes and changing the muscle memory. But that's in the eye of the beholder. You don't have to do it 1,000 times or 10,000 times. It depends on who the coach is and how they're going to look at it through the lens of correcting things. And that's the art of the deal, you know, how to correct things. But when it's all said and done, this is such a key component, okay, because everybody's in the moment and you might get better in the moment and be hurting yourself for the future. But making mistakes is a leader in a clubhouse. The best of all the rest, people have failed more than all of us, all three of us put together. The most successful people, whether it be sports or business, it's never over until you quit, okay? And people just see that final destination and they don't understand it. They took the stairs to get there and they failed so many times. And this is what I try to teach people. The more you miss, the more you're going to make. The more you get past, the more you're going to learn how to play the net. I could go on and on about the tennis part. And that's why I try to teach belief and courage. Because as you get bigger, stronger, and faster, once you have that belief and confidence, it's going to be easier because you've developed and grown. So mistakes are the most important thing on and off the court. That's how you grow. But when people make mistakes, they get wrapped up in, you know, failure and disappointment or quitting. Mistakes should be looked at as positive. You got to love, this is going to sound different. You're going to love to fail because there's a better opportunity that's going to make you try harder. But everybody frames it up different and they have the wrong perspective. But I love mistakes.
And I agree with you. I mean, there are opportunities to get, you know, to improve. And the thing is, it's better to have the mistakes in practice instead of on the court and to improve and improve in practice. So you're not worrying about that type of thing while you're competing. But the general public, I mean, these, you know, they're like stars stepping onto the court and they think they're so talented, you know, that they don't realize that the hours that had to go into a sport to make them almost mechanical, that they don't even think anymore, that they're in touch with a force, that they just are in the game as if the racket's part of them and the ball's part of them. Is that a neuro thing? Is that the brain, or is that the body, or is that a combination of that and an external force?
That's a great question, Rhonda. I think it's a combination of both. And these people who practice, it's unheard of how many hours they put in on the court and off the court. And we were even talking that they can even put in the hours visualizing. So when they're sleeping, they're thinking about it. So it's on the court where they're training, and then off the court, they're working every day, like whether it's building up their muscles, their speed, their agility, their flexibility. And then at night, they can, before they go to bed or when they're sleeping. I remember I used to visualize before I played matches, to kind of visualize the points, how to, where to put the ball, and think about strategies on winning. So it's just a tremendous effort. And I think it's all boils down to our nervous system. We're putting a lot of input, sensory input, to get the motor output that we want. That's the fundamental whole premise of the book as well. We're actually we're kind of programming our mind in order to get the desired motor output, and then performing at a really high level. And even in the book, it talks about how when Venus and Serena had to drive from California to Rick's Academy in Florida, when they were driving, they would take breaks and do shadow strokes, because the longest time they didn't play tennis was that drive over here. So it requires so much dedication, hard work. People do not recognize that. It's a lot.
But if I could, chime in on that, you might have to do something hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times for that one volley at 4-all, URAD, US Open, semifinals, just for one shot. Are you going to feel calm? And that's all those repetitions, all those yesterdays is going to make you successful today. And that's what people don't understand. They see the guy drop the pass in the end zone at home. They go, I could have caught that. They have no idea how much went through that and that, to get to that end zone to even drop the ball. And this is in serving. These people had millions of serves, and they double fault 450 times. Sabalenka 2 years ago. Or you only get 50% of your serves in, and these are pros. Quarterbacks, the guy with the most touchdowns, he has the most interceptions, like we said about mistakes. So this is like so important for everybody to understand the work that you don't see. You just turn on your TV set and you see greatness, and you're right. They're a machine. Watch when they serve. They do these rituals. They're on automatic pilot, okay? But everybody chokes. Everybody gets nervous. Everybody has a rough day at the office, but in $1 Billion Mind, it's all about mental strength, and it can help you whether it's sports or the game or life.
Yes. And, they do the odds for famous baseball players, and the amount of times that they strike out compared to the home runs, you would think that they wouldn't be paid the amount of money that they're paid, but that's the odds that you're dealing with. But, for a little bit more clarity on visualization, is that maybe people don't realize what that is. So can you just sort of explain or describe what that is? Are the eyes open or closed? And are you sitting comfortable? Are you laying down? Like those types of things that an athlete would prepare themselves actually to go into that visualization of, as you're saying, where to put the ball on the other side of the court.
Yeah, let me chime in that. Well, that's first off, I love the question. I have everybody forget the biomechanics of how to optimally do the serve. Before they serve, I have a picture in their mind where they're going to hit it. I want them to add color. I want them to add the crowd. Okay. I want them to not go there. I want them to go right there. Finite focus. That takes a tremendous amount of discipline. And then if you hit in the net, you can't say, oh, this stuff doesn't work. You can't be so flippant that you're going to bail out, But that's what you can do it with your eyes open. Now, off the court, so I played basketball back in the day. You see it before it happens. You picture it. You see yourself doing these things. Then when you get to those moments, it's like anything else in life. Once you've been there and done that, you have calmness and you have confidence. Okay. And it's everybody does this all the time at the highest level. They see it before it happens, and it brings calmness. Before they had GPS, if you knew where you were going driving somewhere, the second time you're going to feel more calm and confident because you kind of know where you're going, or there's that on you would see these landmarks. You know what I mean? So that's why visualization is huge. And you see it a lot more in golf because they take their time before they hit the shot and they picture it in their mind, probably more than any other sport because it goes at a different pace, where tennis is like advanced pinball and steroids. You know, it's kind of fast, except for the serve, okay, and some other pieces.
And just to add to that, Rick, I love this concept of visualization, how you teach your students, right? I love the concept of visualization. But Rhonda, when we talk about anything in this book from the $1 Billion Mind, it doesn't require anything special but our mind. Really, we can do any of this anywhere, anytime. You can visualize all day long. You can visualize at night. You can visualize before you go to bed. It doesn't have, and usually with your eyes closed, but you can even do it with your eyes open. Like, our mind is in our control. It's our power. And that's why this book is so important, and it changes people's lives, because we're really affecting people and how they think and how their minds are programmed. So it's not about sitting on a couch or having to be in a certain place. It could be anywhere.
Absolutely.
And really, I think that we're doing this all day long anyway.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing visualization. We're coming in and out of, visualization, and then our kinesthetics and then doing this, but we're always using our mind and our brain, and sometimes our heart, hopefully, throughout the day anyway. But the thing is, it's honing in on the mind, because not only, like, athletes have to have an unbelievable sense of awareness of themselves, but a concentration on what they're doing. I mean, it's very high level. And then when they add the visualization to them, it's almost like you can talk about this to the audience. As coaches, you may realize that you might be in the feeling or seeing magic. It's almost like a dance is what's going on. And an athlete becomes almost, it's kind of like watching figure skaters, right? It's almost, when you see them at their height, it's just almost like you become them, because they're so effortless, and you don't realize, and you don't have to, go to training and watch their training workout, right? To know how this has made them a full-blown athlete.
But when you say visualization, we can go back, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Okay. Visualization doesn't mean closing, your eyes and picturing it. It happens all the time. Like you just said, we're seeing and then we're copying. And I tell people, you want to, without listening to me, which you should, okay, look how these guys respond after they make a mistake. They're like a machine. Okay. And how you can really brainwash your own mind. And probably one of the best compliments I got my whole life was at the after party, after the red carpet with VW and Serena. They said, Rick, we were literally brainwashed by you and Daddy to become number one. Okay. Everything was about the future. Everything was about seeing it, expecting it. You're better athletes. They were 12 years old. I'm talking about Steffi Graf, Navratilova, and they're like little kids. Steffi would have got that. This has, the whole era. And that's why a coach or a mentor or a role model or a father figure, words are so powerful. But they expected to be there. They didn't hope to be there. They pictured themselves lifting that Wimbledon trophy. Now, you got to have the thoroughbred. You can't have a donkey and win the Derby, okay? But that doesn't mean you're a thoroughbred, you're going to be great, okay? You got to have the mind, okay? You got to have the mind and other attributes. But that was epic from the Williams sisters. And we were almost brainwashed to be number one, but they pictured themselves changing tennis. They pictured themselves this happening. And that's why way back in the day, when they were like little pipsqueaks, I said, they're going to both be number one in the world someday.
Absolutely. And isn't that one of the quotes from the book is think big, be big. And that's Rick's quote.
Yeah.
And I love it because that's what he always offers to students is be big, think big. And that's what he did with Venus and Serena. Just had such a big mind for them. And he does that for all his students. I love it. And and those thoughts are really important. That's what fosters a lot of success and positivity. Our thoughts are really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, a good coach is one of the biggest gifts in life. Any budding athlete and professional athlete, it's because of the coach that they can do what they do. And it's because of the coach who has stood behind that athlete for year after year after year. And the athlete knows that the coach is not going to let them down. You know what I mean? Like there's a huge trust that goes on day after day after day with these athletes. And Rick, you must have unbelievable, a lot of affection from your athletes because you're the one that has made them who they are today. You're the reason that they've held that trophy, because if it wasn't for you, they may not have reached the success that they've had.
Yeah, it's like it's always a team effort, but at the end of the day, finding ways to motivate and stimulate and create belief and courage, it's huge. I do all those things before they even do it. I make people confident before they get confidence. Okay. I get them to believe so they can achieve. And those building blocks, okay, that's why all the parents listen. Those building blocks at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those seeds, if they're the right seeds, can change people's lives. And like with the Williams sisters, it changed history. But, you're so right. It's like, because one bad piece of advice or one bad grip or backswing, it could cost people careers and millions of dollars. And, I kind of know how to do this. Okay. But they got to buy in. And when they buy in and it's a team effort, the sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're there when they're competing is huge. Like you're more important being there than their parents, unfortunately.
You're right.
Because they need that energy, your energy, that you're going to be there to have a word with them, to help them overcome something if they make some bad shots and they're off their game. You know what I mean? Like nobody is going to help them that day except for the coach.
Absolutely. And I was going to just add to that, Rhonda, that his students written this book with him. So I came back after so many years, and it just is a testament to how amazing he is and how influential Rick is to all his students.
Yeah, what's interesting, when a lot of the players that I've been fortunate to coach, and not just the household names that everybody knows about, but so many All-Americans and so many national champions, they come back or they talk, and it's more about the hard work, the positivity, the confidence, and how they pass that down to their kids. It's not about their forehand or backhand that much. It's all about these subtle things that were kind of part of the entree of the way that I teach. And that's the most powerful thing, because if it helps them get better grades or treat people better or how to handle problems, I mean, that's what it's all about. And I use the tennis court as my platform to get that message.
Oh, they're life skills. They're absolutely life skills. I mean, and, people who may not go on in a career of, with a certain sport, it doesn't really matter, because everything that they've been taught all the way along, and you probably know a lot about this, Niva, is that, music and sports develops the brain in a way that develops our scientists, our doctors, and all sorts of people. And so although you're on the court and you're teaching them tennis, in the meantime, their brain is firing and wiring into a very high level. I'm trying to explain this. And actually, why don't you explain it to us, Niva?
I think that when you talk about how sports and music affect the brain, you recognize that these are motor outputs or sports is like motor output, music is a sensory input, whatever. Both of them are, affecting the brain, and they allow us for improving many things. That only includes mind control, but also our thoughts and what we generate from our mind. So, for example, say someone is an athlete growing up. They play sports, they play tennis, or they're very competitive in whatever sport they desire, whether it's basketball, tennis, golf, whatever. And that athletic ability helps the mind focus. It's incredible. It provides a foundation for our thoughts, because all of a sudden, when we're playing a sport, now we start focusing on the thoughts that really matter. And we don't think about the thoughts that don't matter. For example, when I was playing tennis, I remember I was really focused on tennis, and then I could focus on my studies, and I became an overall high-performing individual because of that. My brain was focused. When I didn't play tennis, I lost a lot of that. I started focusing on a million things, and other people, what they said would bother me or something. Right now, when you play tennis, you realize that your mind is really focused, and you start generating thoughts that are important for your goals. And so for kids and for adults that are playing sports or doing any sort of extracurricular activity, it just makes our mind stronger. And it's incredible the impact it has on the mind. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's lifelong skills.
Oh yeah. It really does discipline our minds,
Yeah. No, regarding discipline in tennis, but any sport, you are going to have structure. You're going to have discipline. You're going to have focus. You're going to have problem solving. You're going to deal with a whole medley of emotions, and how to manage that and have someone there that understands this to help you. But all these skills that you get along the way are priceless. Absolutely. They're priceless instead of just winging it. That's why any type of activity that you're in, especially if you're in the right environment, it helps you just in life as you get out of high school and go. It's unreal, but it teaches you the hard work. I mean, if you really want to see how good you can become, especially with what I do, I mean, these people work so hard. And go back to the Williams sisters again. People can look, oh, they're big, they're strong, they're fast, blah, 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 blah. I never had 2 kids, and I've had so many work any harder than Venus and Serena Williams. Okay, they drain a public shopping cart every night and hit serves. And it's interesting, Serena has the best serve of all time. The biomechanics have to be there, but so do the repetitions. So what's behind the curtain, as we talked about earlier, people have no idea. And every parent, without making them do something, if you get them in something they enjoy, they're going to get all that stuff along the way.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Courting Your Soul with Rhonda Grant. And today I have the great pleasure of interviewing Nivedita Jerath and Rick Macci. Can you let the audience know how they may reach out to you?
I mean, we're both, Rick and I have social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. Rick has a Twitter account, also YouTube. We have many social media platforms, and Rick has a great website where you can go on there and find ways to contact him, including email addresses and phone numbers. So that's a great resource. And of course,
listen, www.rickmacci.com is the website. You can email me, info@rickmacci.com. There's a lot of free content on YouTube and on Instagram. I had some of the best selling videos in the United States. If people are tennis players, so there's all kinds of stuff. But what's interesting, since I run my own business, I'm very accessible. I analyze a lot of videos. People can call me. I personally try to talk to everybody that comes here. And, probably over 1 million people came through this facility last year. So I'm very hands-on. Okay. And if they're ever in Boca Raton, I'm on court number 1 all day. So stop by and we'll get a picture and, maybe sign the book, $1 Billion Mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Rick has not taken a day off, so you will see him, and he's just amazing, rock star. And if you want to find the book, you can find it there or on Amazon.com.
And I got a doubles partner who wrote the book with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to the audience a little bit about the book. Is it only for athletes, or is it for anybody who wants to improve their day-to-day life?
The book is for anybody, Rhonda.
Okay.
It's really a blueprint to help us figure out our minds and help improve our mental strength and mind control. So anybody can wake up in the morning, they can be happy, and then something they read or something they see or something that happens makes them sad. And this book is to help control our thoughts. Just like we eat a great diet or we go ahead and exercise our body, this book is to help us feed our mind with great thoughts and help us train our minds to be the best it can be and to have the best thoughts possible. So it's a day-to-day journey. And people can read this book and reread this book and keep figuring out more and more about themselves. So it's for anybody and everybody.
Yeah, it's not about tennis or sports. It's not about forehand or backhand, or it's nothing like that. I have a book like that, but this is not like that. This is more of a self-help book about mental strength and how to train your mind. We're all aware of what we eat, like Niv said, what we put on our brain. This can be the gift that keeps on giving. It's like there's probably 100 lessons in there just from me, okay, about the positivity and how to look at the world through a different lens and how to frame things up. So it's for anybody. It's not for athletes or tennis players or baseball players. They can benefit a lot, but I think the bigger picture is how you can kind of control the situation and not let it control you in the perspective. And that's the most important thing, to have people look at this thing through a different lens. And that's what Billion Dollar Mind does.
Mm-hmm. And, just being the devil's advocate, I mean, there's going to be people listening to this audio and they're going to go, what are they talking about? Control your mind. My mind is just, because a lot of us, we have a mind that it's in charge of us. It decides what it wants to think about, and we just go with the thoughts. And we don't really realize, I think many humans don't realize that we can take control of our mind, and we can decide and be the commander, and chief over our mind, especially when we're concentrating or when our mind's being negative. Can you speak, is there anything on the book about how it's easy for our brains to, I call it the roommate in the head, to get us down and make us feel negative and things like that? So can you talk to the audience about, if they were in that situation, how they can sort of bounce out of that?
Absolutely. I love that question, Rhonda, because I do that every single day. We don't even realize, like, I remember reading about Novak Djokovic, who's a famous tennis player, he's number one in the world, who said that he himself had to struggle with the negative thoughts. We all have it. And so we wake up in the morning and something bothers us, and every single day, every hour, I will weed out those negative thoughts actively so that I generate a positive thought, and I create that positivity in my the way I think and the way I behave and the smile and the energy, so that I can keep up the positive attitude and the joy in my life. So it's an active process. So here are some things that the listeners can do that are just a tip of the iceberg that we talk about in the book. Number one is gratitude. So if we can switch a situation and think about how we're grateful for what we have, all of a sudden that negative thought or the negative emotion disappears. And so that's a really important technique we talk about. And then the second thing that I think is important to highlight are mental thinking loops. A lot of times we get into a pattern where something happens, we read something, we see something, we hear something, and it triggers the same thought process with the same outcome. And so that could be a negative thought, or now we don't want to exercise, and now we have an excuse to sit in front of the TV and eat a bunch of bad food or whatever it is. And we start becoming aware of those thought loops. That will change our entire way of thinking and change our outcome. So those are two techniques that can help with the day-to-day thinking process. And Rick, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, no, first off, I love the question, and you framed it up really good. Everybody has it backwards. You control your mind. Okay, it's not the other way around, but we all think like that because whatever's in there from birth, and a lot of stuff's in the subconscious, what you hear every day, all these things that go in there, and what you hear that day or whatever influences a response, a behavior, an action, or a reaction. Okay, so that's what's in the book. There's all this stuff to kind of rewire things the way to look at it is perspective. And then that changes your mindset. You know what I mean? Like if it looks like it's going to rain, I say, well, it's only 20% chance of it might rain today. And then someone might say, well, it's 80%. They look at it differently, or it's like every day, like Niv said it best, you should appreciate what you have as a starting point, not what you don't have. So I know that's bare bones, but when you start like that, you have more gratitude and you're thankful for being judgmental or, getting all this like negativity all the time or getting on that merry-go-round or always reacting to certain things. And this is what the book does. There's so many gold nuggets in here to look at things differently. And you're going to handle stress better. You're going to handle problems better. You're going to handle everything better if you want to. You control the situation. Don't let it control you. Okay, people think your mind makes the decision. No, you make the decision for your mind. Everything we hear and say and do have been influenced, like us being on the podcast. There had to be a process to go through for this event to occur. This is what people don't understand. Because at the end of the day, if you can take a step back and look at it as a choice, everything you do is a choice. If you can start on that path right there, and it's hard to do, okay, you'll make so many better decisions. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, that is wonderful advice. Very wonderful advice and empowering advice as well. Because, there are people who start off the day, and I call them stackers. I used to be one. That's how come I know, is that something goes wrong. And then another thing goes wrong. And then all of a sudden, you just one after the other, and all of a sudden you're having a bad day. And to let the audience know that they actually have control over switching that into a good day if we just know how to do it. So let's say I'm having a bad day and I've stacked 4 or 5 things on top of one another and I'm just ready, like, don't cross me today. And so how can we change that? Because a lot of people feel that they can't change that. It just ruins their whole day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly, Rhonda, what this book is about.
Exactly.
Exactly. That changed the direction of a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you have to start doing. You have to stop. You have to be grateful. You have to think of positive thoughts. We also talk about humor. You make it funny. You reframe it. So you say, okay, so it's going to be important 5 to 10 years from now. And then think about the loops that you can fall into. Like say, oh, I'm falling into something I've done for my whole life. I don't want that. I don't want that emotion. I don't want that feeling. And you start stopping those thoughts. You reframe it. You try to think of something positive. You try to, do the things that it takes to forget it or look at it in a different way so that it doesn't become as negative. You kind of, Rick talks about this, flipping it into a positive situation or something, you make it a better outcome. So if we start thinking of anything negatively and we have a bad day or we start stacking, the outcome's going to be only negative. So our option is to think of it positively or to kind of come with a solution for it. And I think that that's a really important thing to get to the next level in life, to find the joy and to keep being fulfilled. And Rick, I'm sure you have.
No, let me back that truck up a second. Yeah. when we say bad day, what does that mean? Okay, I don't think I've had a bad day. I can't remember a bad day. Now, there might be a lot of things that I could get upset about or frustrated about or mad about, and it might happen 100 times, especially if you run your own business. But how you handle it and how you respond to it, that all is explained in the book. You become bulletproof. And like people say, you never get mad, or you never seem upset, or you're never sad, and you're always positive, and you're always motivating. Okay. I've trained myself to be that way because I have everybody has the same amount of crap that they deal with. Okay, but some people have more crap they deal with because they make it. Like you said, they keep stacking layers on there.
Yeah.
So I think if you start from the base and you appreciate every single day what you have and what you don't have, and you got to get in a routine of positivity. You got to put positive stuff in your head, watch motivational speakers. If you want to handle things better, okay? But then it comes down to a choice, and I try to lead by example, and that's why I had such a big impact on the mental part of these athletes and really giving them the most important thing to deliver the goods under pressure.
Absolutely. And Rick, your positivity is so incredible. It's how this book came. It's so much positivity. I've enjoyed every single moment. It's just.
Are you positive?
I am
positive and encouraged, eh? Yeah.
So you has been phenomenal. It's just so much positivity. Never even for a second looking at the negative or criticizing. It's always like, let's move, let's get it done. And that's how these things happen.
I really love the teaching there is that from both of you, actually. And so when people start off having a bad morning, it's being able to interrupt yourself, really, and say, this is just for now, and then just do a shift, right? Do a shift. But the thing is they have to learn what will shift them and what will help them. And some people, they don't see outside of that, but those are not athletes. I think that athletes are trained continually that their brain doesn't really sabotage them like that. Would you agree to that statement?
Absolutely. Yeah.
To some degree, just because they've been in the battles more and they might be able to cope more. But then again, they could be such a high level perfectionist, they could go down the wrong yellow brick road also. Listen, everybody has the same amount of problems. It's how you deal with it. So, and I think it's important for all the listeners to understand that. They just see, a movie star, they see someone successful and they look at that snapshot, but they don't realize when the camera's off, it could be just a whole smorgasbord of craziness. But when the camera's on, they know how to smile and do what they got to do. It's all how you deal with it. And that's why the book, people have said, Rhonda, it's changed their life.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. That to me, that's why the book, to me, that we can reach millions and it's on its way to a bestseller. It's like the best feeling in the world because they don't have to come to Court 1 at the Rick Macci Tennis Center.
Absolutely. And I like this idea of how can you shift your thoughts, and it's very individualized. That's what the book goes over.
Yeah.
What are some things you can do? Some people like to exercise. Some people will take a deep breath. Some will meditate. Some will, eat something, or, they have to, some people will call their best friend, but that's obviously not gonna, if they start commiserating about what's best. But are techniques that you have to realize that are very personal to you. And those techniques need to be evaluated, and it's a one-on-one, you versus you. And when you control that, you're going to conquer your mind, you conquer your world. It's really important. That's what this book is about.
One more thing, a lot of listeners, people always say, thank God it's Friday, TGIF. Okay, why not thank God it's every day? Why don't you make Monday your best day? Okay, if there's a best day, every day to me is your best day. And I try to tell people, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. It's all how you want to live your life and how you want to look at this stuff. But we think, oh, it's the middle of the day, the work week's almost over. People don't realize how worse things could be until something worse happens to them. And they need, if they would get that base of being appreciative every day. And it's so hard because things distract us and influence us. But if that's the foundation of something greater, then all this stuff's going to happen to you. You'll handle things so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Well, we live our lives as if we're going to live forever, right? And mere blips in time. And so why spend our time, being upset and unhappy and wishing for the end of the day so we can go on a holiday? Like sometimes people wish their whole life to go on a holiday or for the weekend to happen. And so that's really good teaching, is that it's every day, whether it's Monday or Friday, it's every day is a good day.
Love it. And especially, Rhonda, when I deal with patients who have about 3 months left to live,
Yes.
this is so important to find joy. And that comes from our thoughts and knowing what we like, what we dislike, and really encouraging us to think about what we find joy in. But absolutely, it's very important to frame that. I make a lot of my decisions saying, okay, what if I, die in a few days? Then I know what's important to me. And then I think about things, I reframe things, and I find the joy. It's very important.
And it's unfortunate to flip the script a little bit. Some people like problems. They like to argue. They like drama. They like the gossip. They like the negativity. And I tell everybody, if you get mad, you get better at getting mad. If you gossip a lot, you get better at being gossip. If you're negative all the time, I mean, this is what people, and then they'll complain or they want to be doing something else. But you got to take one step at a time. The book is a game changer if people really want to make a change, and deal with things better. And you got to take the stairs, not the escalator. It's not going to be like bang. It's not going to happen overnight. But unfortunately, some people would rather see the car crash, than the sun shining. That's unfortunate.
So I'd like to, at this time, ask each one of you, do you feel that you have crafted your journey, that it's been scripted, or a little bit of both?
About the book or our careers?
Your whole life, do you feel that you've been called to your journey, crafted it, or a bit of both? Your whole life. I would look at people like you and I would think to myself that, somewhere along the way, you remembered why you were here and what you were to do. That's how I'm viewing. But it doesn't matter what I say and what I think, it's what you think. And so, Rick, let's start with you.
No, listen. I was meant to do this, Yes. It just happened to be, tennis was the calling, but I was meant to do this. I love helping others. I love people. I've always been able to communicate and analyze and motivate and inspire. And it's the best feeling in the world, when you want to do more for others and give. You learn the knowledge as you go along, and so yeah, I was just meant to coach and make a difference in people's lives. And what I tell everybody, I don't change lives. I don't change strokes. I change lives, and I was just meant to do this early on. Okay. And the fact that I still have the same passion from age 22 at this stage and teach, 7 days a week, 50 hours. I love it. So I was meant to do it. And then as I went down the road, and I'm seeing this impact that I had on people, make better grades, treat people better, get off drugs, get people to work hard. They were lazy and negative. Now they're motivated and jacked up, and I've done a better job maybe than their parents because they're going to listen different, and that's the best feeling in the world because to teach a foreigner backhand and put this thing together is kind of an easier thing to do. But when you can have that impact, and you're that type of person, this is what I was meant to do, just to make a difference in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Niv.
Yeah. So I remember there was a point in my career where I had, graduated from Harvard, then I went to Mayo, and then I went to this really intense program at Mass General, the Harvard program, where I was taking care of patients in neurology. I didn't have much sleep. I was seeing about 40 to 50 patients a day. And I remember this time when I looked at myself and I said, what am I doing with my life? I'm young and I've got really no life. I don't have sleep. I can't do anything. And it was exhausting. And there was a time in my life when I kind of felt a little bit, as a doctor, you feel a little bit burnt out. It's just a lot. You're taking care of patients who are dying. Some are coding in the ICU and you're like, oh no, I've got to take care of this and that. And now I can't sleep. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? And I remember that moment. There was a moment in my life I said, this is for me, because there's probably nobody else who can be this calm with so much stress and who has studied this much in their life. Probably since I was 6, I was writing books, and 7, I was always writing. And I knew I was going to be a doctor. I loved helping people. So I realized it was part of my destiny to give back. And so I knew there was probably nobody in the world that could be in that position, even though it was tough. So I felt there was a little bit of, even though I worked hard for it and I created it, there was a lot of destiny involved. Even now when I work, I help people out. I realize probably not many people who think like I think, really hard cases and trying to figure that out. So it's definitely a bit of both, but mostly destiny. It's kind of thrown on me. I feel responsible to help people.
And not only was it her calling and my calling, I'm glad she called me to write this book, because we did something that's going to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Yes, it sure is. And Niva, this, with having those adrenaline rushes like that, and then trying to calm down and sleep, it's almost impossible. So your brain is really moving all the time, right? And even when you're sleeping, it's probably still moving, and you're having
100%. And also that I was working throughout the night. Traditionally in that program,
yes,
they had an overnight call. So not only did I throughout the night, then when I was free, I also didn't sleep very well. So it was years and years of lack of sleep, and you just become like exhausted to the point where
you're just exhausted all of the time.
Yeah. But
what extraordinary discovery have you found in your life, Rick?
Regarding tennis or
anything just in your life? Is there anything that's just been so extraordinary to you that you didn't realize until you came upon it?
When I grew up, my dad died when I was 10 years old. So it was just me and my mom, my sister, and, to look back, because I've done so many podcasts and interviews, and I do a lot of stuff on TV, and, I look back, which I never do. I only look forward, but I've had to reflect because everybody wants me to reflect.
Yes.
Just the journey that I've taken, and done a lot of it on my own, instead of feeling sorry for yourself. Maybe you don't have a father, growing up, and through adversity can create strength, and a lot of people can make a wrong turn, and the turn I took was more determination. And, I had goals and dreams, and a lot of those came true. So that would be it. And for anybody out there listening, it's not over till you stop, and I'm still going strong.
And Niva, what extraordinary discovery have you made in your life?
I'm blessed to be able to write lots and lots of scientific papers that have great discoveries. But I think for me personally, and for this podcast, it would be the fact, and this is what the book's premise is based on, is the fact that one positive thought can change you from going from losing and failure in life to winning. So it goes from failure to success. So one thought, one change. Thought. It's one thought. It could be a reframing of how you see the past, letting go of the past, forgetting the past, starting to think positive about yourself. All of those things, like just one thought, and all of a sudden you're a different person. So it's how you see the world can be changed by one thought. That's why this book came out after that. And I was so blown away by how important our thoughts are.
Beautiful.
Let me just add one more thing, because now that I think about it, when people ask me all the time, who's my favorite student of all time? And they think it's going to be Venus, Serena, Capriati, Roddick, Sharapova, Kenin, Pierce, Rude, they're, and it's really not. Ever since the day I did this, it's ever on the other side of that net, that hour, that minute, that second. So, the fact that I felt like that, I knew it was kind of like my calling. And like I said, you learn the knowledge, and it was the best decision I ever made, because I've made a big impact on a lot of people's lives.
And you haven't missed a day of work, Rick. So it's not work.
And my best student of all time is right next to me right now.
Wonderful. And so can you hold the book up so that the audience can see it? Yes, perfect. $1 Billion Mind. And is it's on Amazon. Do you have it in audiobook at this point?
We absolutely do have it on Audible.
It's in audio. Great. And so the book is on audio on Audible, I imagine.
Audible, as well as we have a kids version, and we have a journal with the quotes from the book dedicated to just journaling. That should be coming out this week. So
what do you mean you have a kids book for it?
We have a kids version.
Okay. So Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a smaller version that's very easy to understand. Very simple. It has pictures. It's really designed for kids because they can open it up. It has very uh, simple to understand neuroscience. And then all the examples we talk about, very simple and very abbreviated. So
And what age of children is it suitable for?
I would say the best age around 9 or 10 and above.
Yes. Yeah. So there you go, parents at home. There is a book that you can purchase for your child for their birthday or Christmas to set them on their life of positive thinking and growing into the person that they've actually come here to be. Because there's so many things in our life that almost keeps us away from who we're supposed to be. And so I just love what you're doing. You know, I have not had the opportunity to read the book at this point, but I'm definitely getting the audio book because I have a very big library in Audible, and I love adding to it. I'd like to thank both of you for taking your time today to be on my show. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know both of you and how positive you are. And I don't mean positive, happy, but I mean positive about your life and positive about the difference that you're making in every single person's life that have come into your care, whether it being a doctor or a coach, because those people are coming into your care and they're trusting you to give them the best you have of yourself to them so they can go on to greatness, which in turn makes you great. And I just love it. And so thank you so much for the work that you're doing in our world.
Oh,
No, thank you.
thank
Kind
you.
words, and we enjoyed the show. It was great.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for listening to Courting Your Soul with Rhonda Grant, whose podcast has been treated with digital audio health by my sponsor, Silatrax. Theme song for Courting Your Soul is Sun on the Water, composed and performed by John Park Wheeler.